And those components are written in a particular geometry. This is probably the more important. The other is just sort of a physical look at how it works. This is how it's written to, and that is kind of important to us. So each platter is going to have tracks, which are concentric circles written on it, and then each track is divided into pie shapes called sectors. Now most drives will have at least 2 platters, and they'll have the above and beneath side of both potentially, so you can write data on all of those. Well, those sectors that sit above and below one another are a part of a cluster. Okay, and that's probably the most important term on here. Sector is 512 bytes. It's the smallest physical space that you can write to on the drive. A cluster is going to be between 4 and 64 sectors, depending on the file system. And from the operating system's perspective, that's the smallest space you can write to on the drive. Why is this important? Well, like I said, it has to do with file systems. And it really, this part, the logical part, applies to solid state drives as well. We want file systems to have the appropriate size of cluster. Okay? If I have a cluster that is too large, then I'm not going to make efficient use of the drive space. And the reason is because the cluster is the smallest space that the operating system will write to, and it makes up at least 4, so that's a 2 kilobyte cluster size if it was 4 512s, right? It's going to take that amount of space up, and it can only write one thing into it. Okay, so it can't like fill it up and move on to the next. It'll do that with a large file, but you can see that there could be some wasted space, right? If I had a much larger number, then any files under that number would be consuming that in its entirety. You think about it, a lot of files are very small. They're 1 kilobyte, 2 kilobytes. You don't want to waste a ton of space. So that's why this is important. I mean, it's sectors and clusters. The tracks, the cylinder is just a logical arrangement of tracks, but we're writing to the drive in these small pie shapes, and we'd like the logical grouping of those to be as small as possible so as not to waste space. And that really is something for the file system. We'll go further into detail on file systems when we get to operating systems.